Am I the a-hole for telling her it's not her kid? My brother Adam and his wife Eve live with another woman, Lilith. Lilith is a mess. She's morbidly big and doesn't work because she's physically unable. Supposedly, she moved in with them because she was having some sort of mental issue living with her parents and never left. Adam and Eve both dote on her. She comes to every family event. The one time she wasn't invited, they were annoyed about it. Every few months, there's a new, "Oh, poor Lilith" thing, and everyone's supposed to be all sympathetic about it. 2 years ago, my sister and my other sister were going through the baby clothes my sister-in-law no longer needed. Lilith started crying for no reason, and Adam and Eve escorted her out and went and comforted her for like 2 hours. I was going to confront her then for ruining joyful events for my family that she's apparently decided to join, but my mother insisted we couldn't mention it because Lilith was going through a difficult time. When is she not? Because she'd been told a few weeks before that she was going to have a hysterectomy due to the big C, but it was just a false scare. Now, Eve is pregnant, and they've decided that Lilith is going to co-parent as a second mother to the poor kid. Now, Lilith claims the baby who isn't born yet takes after her. Like the baby is super squirmy on the ultrasounds and she fidgets all the time. That's it, literally everything they have because the baby is not born and has no relationship to Lilith at all. Adam and Eve just keep laughing about it. They even play along. I got to see that joke play out twice where Lilith said it and once where Adam did. "Oh, the baby takes after Lilith, haha." They were all at my mother's house, and different people kept coming by to congratulate them on the baby. The fourth time I heard it, I lost it. I said, "No, he doesn't take after you. He's not your kid and never will be." Lilith cried again. Eve took her out of the room and my brother ripped into me. Said it's just a joke that makes her feel better about never getting to be pregnant even though she really wanted to be. And he kept on about it. He says she is the kid's mother, even though, she literally isn't. And that if I can't accept that and treat her like a part of his family and his child's parent, then I won't be welcome to see my nephew ever. I said I didn't think he'd be willing to skip out on every family event over this waffle. He said he'd tell our family it was him and Eve with the baby and Lilith or me, and we'd see who was invited. My mother is basically obsessed with her grandchildren ever since my dad passed, and my brother has always been the golden firstborn son. She calls Lilith her bonus stepdaughter, which I'm pretty sure is a dig at me because I'm not married. So now I'm basically going to get kicked out of my own family if I don't apologize to Lilith and pretend she's totally my nephew's mother, even though she obviously definitely isn't. Am I the a-hole, or is my brother way out of line? Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my current boyfriend for an ex? I, 23F, have been in a relationship with my current boyfriend, 24M, for 8 months, and I truly don't have any issues with him at all. He treats me great. But 8 years ago, I met my ex, 25M, let's call him John. Just after high school, we decided to go to the same college and formed a solid group of friends that hung out almost every day in college. For 6 years, and were always in separate relationships, so nothing ever came of it. But I always felt like there was always a connection and tension between us. My senior year, I found out my long-term partner has cheated on me, and we broke up. A week after graduation, John told me how he felt, and we decided to give it a shot. We kept it a secret from our friend group for about a month in an attempt to navigate through these feelings and figure each other out. When we decided to tell our friend group what we thought was going to be a celebration was actually a lot of anger and backlash. They didn't think it was a good idea to date in the friend group and did not want us together. Me and John decided to try and plan a friendcation out of state with our friend group in hopes of reconciling everyone. Unfortunately, it went terrible and made everything worse. When we got back, John broke up with me because the pressure of the friend group was too much. I was heartbroken. I moved soon after that for a job opportunity 3 hours away and lost contact with them all. 2 years later, the friend group has dispersed and all of them have gotten married, except John and I. In January, I attended a work conference in the city they all live in and ran into John. We decided to grab coffee and talk about old times and how much everything has changed. He brought up how he was sorry for ending things and he shouldn't have let the friends have such a vital role in our relationship. I accepted his apology and told him it was okay. As we sat there, I felt that same tension and connection. It was like old times. I left there, and neither of us reached out again. In April, I met my now boyfriend, 24M, let's call him Marshall. We met through a mutual friend and went on one date before he flew out of town for a work event for 3 weeks. During those 3 weeks, I found out John was leaving the country for the summer. a trip he had dreamed and talked about for years. I texted him and wished him luck and told him how happy I was because I knew how much this trip meant to him. He called and asked me if I wanted to grab dinner before he left one last hurrah. Dinner was great, and again I felt the connection. On our way home, he brought up again how sorry he was for breaking up with me. I told him it was fine and that maybe it was for the best. He pulled over to drop me off, and we sat for a moment making small talk until he reached for his wallet and pulled out an old Polaroid photo of me that he took of me 2 years ago on our friendcation. He said he's kept it in there for 2 years and hasn't stopped thinking about me, and now that all this time has passed and our friends were all married, we could work things out. I stared at him in disbelief and told him I've always felt a connection, but I couldn't afford to get hurt again, and I met someone else and I wanted to give that a shot. I got out of the car and he got out with me. He walked around to my side and I gave him a long hug and told him to have a safe trip. I let go and tried to walk away, but he pulled me back and kissed me. "Don't date anyone until I get back," he said. "What?" I said. "Wait for me," he responded. Asked him for what? A date or a relationship? "I can't promise you a relationship yet, but I promise you a date." I walked to my car and yelled, "Maybe." We didn't talk again all summer. 3 weeks later, Marshall flew back into town and asked me on another date. John's words rang in the back of my head. Wait for me. But I couldn't risk getting hurt like I did the first time. So I took the date and have been going on dates with him for 8 months now. Everything has been great. He's been the sweetest to me, and we had such a great summer together. And everything has been great until about 2 months ago. John flew back from his trip and called me a few days later and asked me to dinner. I told him I was seeing someone new, and he was surprised. "Oh," he said, hurt. "Well, if he doesn't work out, you know where I'll be." And we hung up. I was shocked he called, but left it at that. Fast forward to about 2 weeks ago. I attended an old college friend's wedding and seen John for the first time since the night he kissed me. Our eyes immediately locked when I walked in the reception, and he walked over to me and said hello. I asked him how his trip went, and that led to us talking basically the whole night. I told him about Marshall, and I could see the pain in his eyes. He nodded and listened and finally stopped me and asked, "Are you happy with him?" I was surprised by his question and responded, "Yeah, I am happy." He looked at me for what felt like a lifetime and said, "Okay then, if you're happy, then I'm happy," with a sad smile. The conversation ended soon after that, and he reached over to give me a hug. He hugged me a little tighter than normal and told me to take care and that if I ever needed to talk, not to hesitate to call because he loved talking to me. My life with Marshall is great. He loves me deeply and my family loves him, but I can't help but feel the strong connection with John. It's overwhelming. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for breaking up with my boyfriend for my ex? Will I be ruining a perfectly good relationship with a great man for a chance with someone who couldn't see my potential the first time around? Or is John my soulmate? Am I the a-hole for telling a roommate's girlfriend she is being cheated on? I, 24M, live with my boyfriend, 32M, in a 2-bedroom house with his roommate. For the sake of the story, my boyfriend will be Gordon. Roommate is Max, and roommate's girlfriend, Alice. I had lived with my boyfriend for about a year, and he had lived with Max for about 7 years. They were very good friends. Max was at heart, I believe, to be a good person, but had anger issues and walked all over my boyfriend. He would say insults, breaks his stuff in rages, screams at both him and I when stuff isn't his way. I had a love-hate relationship with Max because at arm's length was great and fun, but he could become really nasty. After living there for about 8 months, my boyfriend roommate Max met a great girl, Alice. She was so sweet, pretty, smart, and all around a great person, and was excited they got together. We became pretty close while living there. She lived an hour away, but would come down for weekend and spent the summer living with us. We both had a history with being cheated on, so often we would confide in each other and talk about our relationships. For context in the story, my boyfriend did cheat on me. I always had a bit of suspicion with Max and infidelity, as Alice always told me he was secretive with his phone, girls, hash she didn't recognize, and quite frankly, every cheating red flag. Fast forward, I was in bed with my boyfriend, and we got on the subject of cheating, and he slipped up and told me that Max was actively cheating on Alice during work trips with an ex who also had a family. For context, my boyfriend knows as Max told him one day about how he sleeps with his ex during work trips as they fulfill different needs for Max. I'd had a few drinks that night and felt like justice should be served as she was always suspicious, and I felt like she needed to know. I called her and told her this didn't go so well. I didn't think it through much, and she asked how I know. And I didn't want to throw my boyfriend under the bus, so I made up some story, but she ended up figuring out Gordon told me. I told her if Max asks how she knows to tell him I stole my boyfriend's phone and found messages, I was hoping to not throw my boyfriend under the bus so it didn't ruin the friendship between Gordon and Max. I hung up the phone, and my boyfriend receives a call from Max, and he is furious, saying how he's going to beat me up next time he sees me, and how I'm lying to destroy their relationship because I got cheated on and all this stuff. To sum it up, Max turned into an ass and moved out with some damaging factors. He and Alice are still together, and he told her it's not true and I was lying and just trying to ruin the relationship out of spite. Now, I know I most likely played a bit of an a-hole in this, as I should have either dropped it and let her figure it out or talk to Max. I just couldn't let such a great person be gaslit like that, and I truly didn't do it out of spite. I just wanted to save someone from being used. I've gotten mixed reviews from people saying I should have stayed out of it, and I'm the a-hole. My boyfriend is the real a-hole for telling me and then not owning up to it after it went down, or that Max is the a-hole. I wanted to set what my besties of Reddit think.